Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CDL podcast channel. In this episode today, we are going to talk about the very interesting weekend of matches that just occurred. Some pretty surprising results, which has been pretty rare for the most part this season. We're going to do our predictions for the next set of matches, as well as talk about some interesting news that's coming up about the next COD, maybe the little trials of guns in ranked play, cheaters trying to sign up for Challenger Cups, Champs announced a big announcement. So we're going to talk about all that. If you guys enjoy this one, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. If you're on the audio platforms, drop a follow, drop a 5-star review. We appreciate all your support as always. And let's just jump into this one. Brock, how you doing today?
Oh, fine Monday in Wisconsin. Warm. Pretty warm here. Getting time around. Love it. Some good Call of Duty being played and some bad Call of Duty being played this weekend.
And honestly, like with the way this year is, there are some matches that are basically predetermined with the record of the top four against the rest of the teams. It's like 50 something and 4 going into the weekend, but we saw multiple losses from top four teams against non-top four teams, and it was just one, NYSL.
Yep.
We'll talk about them later. We'll do news first, but it was an interesting weekend of matches from that standpoint that, we saw some pretty rare results. It's rare to see upsets of the top four teams, especially in the fashion we saw a couple of them happen. So excited to talk about that, but let's do some news first, Brock. Biggest news on the docket is Champs announced at, I believe it's the Cut X Center I saw in Allen, Texas, like a convention center. I think they have like an indoor soccer team that Hecz owns that plays out of there. It's being hosted by OpTic, obviously being in the Dallas area. I didn't actually know exactly where Allen was. I've never been to Texas, and I thought I saw it's about like a half an hour-ish just outside Dallas. So right in that Dallas area, hosted by OpTic. Stage, interestingly enough, is going to be in like the center of the venue. It looked super cool with like VIP seating in front of the stage and then like some reserved seating on each side, and like the whole rest of the bowl around it is GA, general admission seating. So super cool looking stage.
Mm-hmm.
Excited for that. Thoughts on that, Brock? You and I, with our friends, are already planning potentially a little trip down to Texas for Champs, trying to make it a yearly thing to just head out to Champs like we did last year.
No, like I said, excited as per usual, and I haven't never been to Texas as well.
Yeah,
So
I've never been to Texas, although July in Texas, it's going to be
warm.
a hot one, just like last year in Vegas. It's going to be hot.
Yeah, it will definitely be hot, but definitely worth it.
Yeah, it's going to be a super fun time. Like I said, same thing. As long as we are able to, get everything all situated and able to make it there, should be super fun. Never been to Texas. Excited to check out Dallas and kind of do some exploring. Like when we go to Champs, we like to go like a day or two early and leave like a day or two after, so it gives us more time to kind of explore the city we're going to. Like we were able to explore more of Vegas last year, so I'm excited as long as we're able to make it down to Champs. Should be fun. I guess the big topic with it is people are questioning if this is maybe an unfair advantage for OpTic to host it. My thoughts on this are like, you could make an argument that like when LAT won it, was it then unfair because that one was in Los Angeles? That Champs, we've had multiple Champs in LA, and there are multiple LA teams. Obviously, Vegas had the potential to have Champs in their home city last year. They just didn't make it. LAG's had the chance multiple times. So like I would say, in my opinion, not unfair. We basically, actually every year in the CDL era that we've had Champs on LAN, I'm pretty sure it's been hosted in a city that houses a team. So I don't understand how it's more unfair for OpTic. And like I would say anyways, odds are OpTic is probably going to have the most fans no matter what city it's in.
Yeah, they.
So I don't know that it makes that much of a difference that it's Texas.
Yeah, I would say, like you said, unfair, me, nah, not really, but because LAT from the past years, just wherever decide to do it every year.
I mean, it's kind of like the Super Bowl in a way, like it's hosted in a random stadium that's predetermined ahead of time, and like, could the team technically play there? Sure. It never happened until recently. Who did the Bucks play at home? Buccaneers.
I believe it was in Florida. I think so. Yes.
I think they played in Tampa. I think they were like the first team, if I'm remembering it right, to like host a Super Bowl. But technically, they also like the way they do the sale. Like fans from other cities and teams get like a chance to get in there too. And also, like, let's be honest, we know the Super Bowl in general. It's just a lot of really rich people. It's not that many like diehard fans.
Yep, agreed.
But they do this in the Super Bowl. Like, there's always going to be a chance that you technically have like a home court in the Super Bowl. Obviously, with like other sports like NBA Finals, MLB, they travel to each other's stadiums. Always going to be home field there. But I don't know. It's tough. They've been in a city every single year basically for these events at Champs, which has been in somebody's home city. And I would say it gives more of an advantage, to be honest, to the other teams. I would say, like,
hmm
I would say LAT get more of an advantage when it's in LA than OpTic does, or like if Champs was to be held in like Minnesota. I would say that like it gives the Rocker more of an advantage because like we always talk about when we went to Major 2 in Minnesota last year, or in Vanguard, sorry. The crowd was louder for Minnesota and more cheers for Minnesota than OpTic when they played each other. So like
hmm
that would never happen to OpTic at any other event. So I feel like it's more of an advantage for the other teams than it is OpTic to have a home champs just because of the way those local fans, especially in like Minnesota, get behind them. But I don't think it's unfair. I think OpTic's just going to have a bigger fan base no matter where they go.
Yep. Not unfair, but adds a little more pressure to the players, I feel like.
Yeah, not that there's already OpTic probably already has the most pressure among
Yep.
players.
Yep.
Let's talk some interesting stuff that happened to the top four. Maybe we want to talk more NYSL when we dive into their matches a little bit later, but the question was being posed as well. I saw on Twitter, are they still top four NYSL we're talking about here? To me, the question is a little bit premature. I mean, they did lose 2 matches that they absolutely should not have lost this weekend, but I think it's a little bit crazy for us to be like questioning if they're in the top four. I just wanted to mention it because it's a question I've seen floating around the timeline from like Breaking Point and other stuff. I don't think it's a fair question right now. I just don't think that there's any team that you could like confidently say is up there because like LAT has been playing okay lately, but like haven't been consistent enough to say that they are ready to crack that considering they got another top 12 on LAN. Carolina has played well this past week, but obviously not nearly enough of a sample size to put them up there. Your other contender would be like Vegas, but they looked absolutely lost against OpTic, so hard to say you'd move them up there. So like, sure, people are like questioning if NYSL is still top 4 because of their recent struggles, but paired with their recent struggles, there has to be a team just like absolutely frying consistently for the past few weeks, ready to take their spot. And, we saw Vegas take a step down. LAT's been a little bit up and down. And Carolina has only had 2 good matches. So there's no team that's going to take their spot in the top 4 right now that's just been frying for like a month waiting for one of these teams to fall. NYSL struggling, but certainly still firmly in the 4th spot to me.
Yep. Everyone else has, their off days and, they struggle as well. And outside the top 4.
What's interesting about our top 4 now is, I mean, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it, but to me, this is the most solidified our top 4 has been all year. Obviously, not in terms of who's in the top 4. Like, the top 4 teams this year have been the same the entire year. They just switched order. But I would say this is the most confident I feel right now in ordering them within that top 4. I've been saying it pretty much all year that I believe NYSL is the 4th best team.
Yep.
And people have been dogging me all year for that, and I feel pretty gratified in that now that it seems to be true. But I would say right now the top 4 is Faze is a clear 1. There is no debate. And I would say OpTic is a clear 2, and there's no debate. And then I would say Toronto's the clear 3, and there's no debate. And then NYSL at 4. I think it's a very clear top 4 right now. Does that mean that they're going to end up finishing this major in those exact placings? Absolutely not. But right now, and if you're talking best team in the game, it is Faze, then OpTic, then Toronto, then NYSL, and it's definitive to me.
Yeah, I fully agree with your thoughts right there. Because Toronto has been struggling against, Faze or OpTic in the past and recently. And NYSL has just been struggling overall.
And OpTic seems to be just completely fine and dominant against everybody that's not Faze. And then they lose close matches to Faze, which to me, like, OpTic's beaten Toronto as well, which kind of puts them a step ahead. And then OpTic also has played Faze very close, where pretty much nobody else has been able to play them close. OpTic's just been right there. So they're clearly in 2 for me. And, Toronto has had their struggles, but nothing like losing to bottom teams like NYSL.
Yeah. Envoy has been struggling at hardpoint.
Yeah, we'll save that for just a little bit, but I was going to mention that too. It's been abysmal. I mean, Envoy, I've never seen him struggle like this since he came back in BO4. I've never seen him struggle like this. We'll talk about that when we get to the Toronto matches, but you're not wrong. It's insane.
Yeah, I saw whatever that one stat was. We'll talk about it when we get there.
Yeah. All right. There's just a couple like random things I want to talk about in terms of news. One's just a funny thing. We don't really need to give thoughts on it, but our buddy Jimbo tried to sign up to play a Challengers Cup,
He
uh,
cried. That's
which
so funny.
is hilarious. And there was like a moment people thought he was actually going to be able to play, but then the face it, like Spence came out and was like, "Yeah, he can't play. He should be banned. It was a mistake." Um, but also, what are the dudes that signed up with him doing? Like, you're just potentially putting your challenger's spot in jeopardy. I think I heard a couple of them are pretty much done playing, just want to play one for fun. And I was like, okay, I guess. But if you're
Yeah.
a legitimate challengers player, like signing up with the guy who's banned and like a known cheater, you're just like jeopardizing your reputation and chance at the league if you're actually trying. Like, come on, let's use our brains.
Yeah, obviously they aren't too serious about it if they're trying to go pro. To sign up with Jimbo, who cheated.
Yeah, if they are, then if they're actually serious about it and they still signed up with him, it's like, yikes. Let's lock
Yeah.
it in.
Yeah, let's use some thought there, maybe.
Yeah. Other thing, Brock, thoughts on the guns in ranked? Obviously, like the main ones being used, the main AR Holger, the Ram 9 SMG, which that gun is absurd, insane. I mean, I think that in terms of for pro play, there's a pretty obvious reason why we have the meta we do,
Mm-hmm.
because the Holger is absolutely insane.
Kills in 4 bullets.
Yeah, I'm not even. I'm not much of a fan of the MTZ, and then the BP50 is like pretty solid. The only sub that matters among the ones that are out is the Ram 9 because that thing is like one of the best subs I've ever used. It like has no recoil. You can zap people across the map. It shoots super fast. It's good for close range. Like that gun is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just think overall there's a pretty obvious reason why these guns aren't in there. I think the current meta we have with a little bit slower TTK on the rival and MCW compared to maybe the Ram and the Holger. I think that the current meta is really good. I will say I do enjoy the guns being in ranked because it is a little bit of a different wrinkle and something new, something fun when you're just playing like casual ranked with your friends. But I fully agree that it's worse for the meta for actual CDL play to have these guns in there for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's always nice to change up the guns a little bit here and there with ranks, but some of them are a little OP for the pro play, and kind of I wouldn't mind them staying in ranked, but I think I'd rather prefer the MCW and rival overall.
Yeah. I think the MCW rival meta is just healthier for both ranked. Obviously for pro play 100%. I think it's overall more healthy for ranked cuz like sometimes you do get just absolutely zapped the new guns and you like, "Oh my god, like bring me the old ones back."
Mm-hmm.
So I think overall, yeah, it's healthier for the game, but I do like this little like trial period. It happened at such a weird time though cuz like the game like a lot of those guns got GA'd so long ago, just like randomly bring them back in for a trial week. It seems weird. It just feels like it should have been done like the first week of ranked, uh, or something like that. But I don't know. I don't mind them in there. I think it's really fun to be able to try new guns, and I think it ends what like tomorrow. I thought it was going till the 23rd.
Yes, they are live until the 23rd.
Yeah, so I mean, live until the 23rd. Probably hop on a little bit tonight and mess around with the Ram 9 because I like to use a sub and um in general, but this year it's been hard to use a sub for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Because we play with your brother Brock, and he's pretty good with the sub. He's better than I am, so we just let him run around the sub. And for a lot of the year, it's been 3 ARs. So I've just kind of been stuck running an AR, kind of trying to play fast. But now that there's a lot more maps, which let's actually jump into that. Thoughts on the new maps now that we've been able to spectate them for a week and play them a little more. We said last time we thought we liked them off the rip, but just weren't able to play them a ton. But now that there's more sub friendly maps, I've been enjoying myself a lot more in ranked. And uh, I think now that we've been able to digest the maps for a little bit longer, I'm curious on your thoughts, but I think the viewing experience is like significantly noticeably better with the new maps. Like the hardpoint map pool is just so much more entertaining with
Mm-hmm.
no invasion and Skid Row. Like I didn't absolutely hate Skid Row hardpoint. It wasn't great, but I didn't hate it. I hated invasion, playing, watching all of it. But the
Yep.
new hardpoint maps, Six Star and Vista, are excellent to watch. They're not the absolute best maps, but they're certainly improvements over what we had, and they are excellent to watch in comparison to what we were watching.
Yep. I really like watching Vista Hardpoint.
Yeah, some of the map design on it's kind of questionable with like the P3 to P4 chain and stuff, but overall, I don't even think you can debate that you'd rather watch like a Skid Row or especially an Invasion.
Yep, I agreed. A lot of engagements on Vista.
And like, yeah, high engagement maps in general are always going to be more fun to watch and play because you want to watch a guy go 35 and 30 crazy high engagements rather than Invasion 18 and 18. Like we always
Yep.
want to watch the guy get way more engagements, way more gunfights, way more action, fast paced. It's always more fun to watch than a super slow hard point.
Agreed.
All right, last thing in the news section, Brock, before we talk about some of the matches from this previous weekend. The next COD is pretty much confirmed. It will be Black Ops Gulf War. And it's the first COD to have a full 4-year development cycle made by Treyarch. I think I can probably, just like you could say my thoughts, or I could say your thoughts, and we'd probably be pretty accurate. I think I speak for both of us when I say we're very excited. Treyarch unquestionably, objectively makes the best Call of Duties. It's not even up for debate.
Yep.
They make the best Call of Duties by far. Their misses are what other team dreams would be their hits for the most part. Like you can make an argument that, like, in my opinion, Treyarch's worst COD since like Black Ops 2 is Cold War, and Cold War was a very, very, very good Call of Duty.
Yeah, very good call. Yep.
Like a lot of people would say Black Ops 4 just because they don't like the cheesiness, but you and I have been on record. We understand Black Ops 4 has a lot of cheesiness, but we were so good at it with the people we played, and we just had so much fun that like Black Ops 4 holds a special place in our heart. But I understand if you say Black Ops 4 is kind of objectively the worst COD they've made in a while because of the cheesiness, if you're like kind of more of a straight up person. But Cold War, in my opinion, would be like maybe the worst COD they've made since Black Ops 2, and I would say Cold War is an excellent game.
Yeah. For me, Black Ops 4 is the best, probably the best viewing experience with the 5v5 format.
Incredible. Cheesy as hell, but so fun to watch.
Yep. Those specialists really, really love watching those players get like 4 pieces with their specialists.
Oh, and like the stim shot was horrible from a pro player's perspective, absolutely, but so fun to watch because it led to so many more insane plays.
Yep.
Like Black Ops 4 viewing experience was top tier. I don't know if it'll ever be beat. It was like one of my favorite games. That was my first champs I ever went to. It was my first event I had ever gone to was Black Ops 4 champs, and that was like, oh, that basically got me hooked. That's basically what started the podcast. The next year in MW19, I started it. Like getting me hooked on Black Ops 4 champs was like what started the podcast. I mean, that game was incredible. But I'm so excited for Gulf War. There was like a leak showed like Ninja in there. There was like a Krig for like an AR. So super excited. We haven't really got much else, but it's Treyarch. It's a 4-year development cycle. They had an extra year to make it. Another thing I'm really hoping for is I hope they have good zombies in it. That's also what I'm hoping for.
Yes. Just good zombies, late night, don't know what to play a little bit of zombies before you get off.
Especially on PC, custom maps on Black Ops 3 are super fun. So, little zombies with the boys like late night when you're bored is always pretty fun. So hoping some good zombies in there. But I'm super excited for Gulf War. It'll be the most excited I've been for a COD probably since Cold War or this game. For sure.
Can be a good year.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Let's jump into matches now. There are some matches, we're going to talk about it when we get there. There are some that don't deserve as much discussion as others. First match of the weekend, though, let's touch on that one. It was Carolina. It was the New York Subliners. A surprising result. I don't think anybody would say this wasn't surprising. Carolina, after losing last week to, who did they lose to, LAG? No. Seattle? Yeah, Seattle they lost to. Oh, sorry, I was blanking for a second. After losing to Seattle last week, Carolina, looking brutal. They do move into, I think I heard it was Brian Saint's apartment in order to play their matches. And they're all together in one location. And what do you know? It's like they're on LAN, and they come out and they beat the New York Subliners. They take it to a map 1 on subbase, beat them in a search and destroy, and then they fend off the reverse sweep in a map 5 domination 6-1. They dominated that one. Gwyn breaking the kill record with 115 kills, 20,000 damage, dropped to 1.47. The rest of his team was hovering around the 0.8 mark, dealing some good damage, though. And overall, it was just a Gwyn masterclass. And Carolina, a huge upset over one of our top teams. That loss to Seattle killed them. We were like, it might hurt their winners bracket chances. Now they're going to have to beat a good team in order to make it to winners bracket, probably a couple of good teams. And they take out New York here, just an absolute masterclass. The one highlight for Carolina in the series was just, Gwyn, absolute masterclass.
Yep, Gwyn, masterclass in New York. Not really sure how they lost, they got Gwynned.
Yeah, basically. Uh,
I
I
was gonna
want
say,
to. What were you gonna say?
I honestly imagine. I heard someone on the flank say, imagine if Seattle Surge last year put in Gwyn.
Yeah, and instead of Mac.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, would have been insane. Also with the way that Real is playing currently for Miami, imagine if Real was able to get his visa sorted out with this team. Although that is a little bit of a knock to Teach, because Teach has been playing very well for the most part this year.
Yep.
Um, I want to talk a little bit more about NYSL, but when we go to their match against Seattle, I'll touch on it a little bit more. So we'll kind of
Yep.
skip over the NYSL talk for now. Just wanted to mention that about Carolina. The next match, not a whole lot to cover here. It was OpTic. It was Seattle Surge. OpTic, it was a close round 11 in the map 2 high rise. OpTic dominated the control and had a pretty solid map 1. Shotzi Masterclass 1.3, Kenny 1.3. Kenny on the map 1, he was cooking. He had 6k damage, 36 and 21. Overall, it was just a classic. We're better than you. We're just going to outclass you, OpTic versus Seattle. Not much else to say there.
Yep. Oh, 04 didn't seem too bad in the series though. That's
No,
good.
especially in the map 1. He was shooting. He ended up only having a .85, but there was a moment there where he was really shooting, and then he had a very good search and destroy as well.
I love to see that.
Yeah, he looks like a pretty solid player overall. I mean, Surge is playing better than they have since basically Major 1.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
For OpTic side, I got nothing really. Besides they got to beat Faze.
yeah, that's the only question with OpTic right now. Until we start to see them lose to other teams not named Faze, it's like that. The same thing every week. They're extremely dominant. They're an incredible team. It's just beat Faze is the only test they have left.
Yep.
All right, Brock. Toronto win 3-1 over Miami. Once again, not a whole lot to touch on here. It was pretty much, Miami come out and shock them on a Vista hardpoint where they really looked good. And that map 1, Miami came out firing. Real and Vickle, both with a 1.4 on the map, and they really outclassed Toronto. And I was like, okay, Miami, they had a win last week. They're coming to play, and then they lose 3 straight maps to the side of Toronto. That invasion control was stupid. Kleenex was like 24-1. Or like 23-1, then he was 23-2, and then all of a sudden he finished 24-4. Dude almost
Is
had he almost had like a legit 23, 24 KD on the map, but died a couple times. So it only was a 6.0.
only.
KD only. Insane to think that Scrap had a 3.0 and was half the KD of his best teammate on the map.
Yeah, I see that. Looks like they got spawn trapped the whole time, offense and defense.
Pretty much. It was just absolute domination. But from the side of Toronto, good to see. But once again, even in maps that they were dominating like that map 3, Envoy with a 0.6 there. He had a 0.6 in the map 4 hardpoint. He had a 0.7 in the map 1 hardpoint. Envoy just, let's talk about it a little bit more in the Faze match, but he is struggling.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that pretty much concludes the Friday. On the Saturday matches, we had LAT taking out Miami Heretics in a 3-2 fashion. Very good to see LAT get another win like this on the board. It was a great match overall from Ghosty. But once again, I liked overall what I saw from this match because Miami continues to be much more competitive since Real has been inserted into the lineup, and they actually look like a team that will make series interesting, and LAT continues to win. So I like to see it because LAT continues to show that they maybe are one of those 5th/6 teams. And Miami, I love to see it because they are showing us that they are much more competitive post roster change, which I like to see teams improving this time of year to make the tournaments more entertaining.
Mm-hmm. I'll agree. I would say I watched a little tuned in little part of this game 5, and it was 4-4 round 4, and Ghosty was in a 1v3 and he killed 3 within the matter of 10 seconds.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that just won the game right there.
Yeah, Ghosty was playing incredible the entire series.
Man, after that, all the players' face on Miami just looked so shocked and devastated.
Yeah.
It was that was nasty.
Next match, Brock. OpTic versus Vegas. OpTic with a quick 3-0. Shotzi was asking in his interview what Vegas are even doing. He wasn't sure. It was a very stinky series from Asim with a 0.64, which is unlike him in his debuts with teams. Typically, Asim has a very good series in his debut with the team, but not a great one from Asim. I'm not ready to hit the panic button on Vegas. The change for Purge was absolutely needed. They had a tough match here for Asim's first match, having to go against OpTic, who is, like we said, far and away our second best team in the game, dominates everyone not named Faze. I still think overall the Asim change was needed. I still am on board. It should have been Vivid. But Asim, I think, will improve this team, I think, in the slaying department as he gets more comfortable. this would be, in my opinion, the exact reason why this change should have been made right after Major 2 and not after one match into Major 3. We talked about it. I think this just proves our point that if you would have given ASIM 2 weeks post Major to practice, I don't think they would have beaten OpTic, but I certainly think that they wouldn't have looked completely lost like they were.
Yep. It's definitely ASIM and Purge are, two very different players.
Yeah, and like you gave the guy no time to practice. Like he had like the short time to practice as compared to he could have had 2 weeks if you would have just made the change you knew you had to make. That's really frustrating for me.
Yeah. So I'm not really worried about Vegas. It's just that, not all comfortable at the moment with the short notice ASIM subbing.
Yeah. Just absolutely insane. I don't know. I don't even know what to say with this one. Like OpTic dominated, and I still believe that Vegas should have made the change, and this would have been a more competitive series.
Yep, should have made change after the Major, like we've been saying.
Yeah. All right, Brock. Let's talk about them now. The New York Subliners in the last match on Saturday lose to the Seattle Surge. First, let's give some props to the Surge. They beat New York in 2 hardpoints. Not only beat them, they looked very good in both hardpoints against Surge. That boy Abezy was shooting. He looks a little bit more comfortable on the map post roster change, which I like to see because we've been saying it since this team has been struggling that Abezy is a very good player. It's very unfortunate he got put in this situation. And I like to see him performing well because I like Abezy as a player. He always has been a very good player ever since, that BO4 champs run when he got a top 4 with E6. Like he's been a good player. He kind of got shafted. Being like the best player in that game on a top 4 team at champs and just not even getting a starting spot the next year was insane.
Yep.
So I like to see him, kind of out there frying on the side of New York Subliners, Brock. So after, any props you have to get to Seattle, you can do that first. But Subliners, man, I've heard a couple takes that like were nice for me to hear because it was something I was thinking. And then I heard like Parasite and like Zuma and Hecz and those guys kind of say it on the flank and on the reverse sweep. And it made me feel a little bit more confident in my take because obviously like Parasite is a name that you should trust more with his analysis than me. He knows more what's going on, but I want to know what your thought is on what you think the issue with Subliners is right now. Obviously, like we said, not time to just like panic, but it is concerning that they lose 2 matches to non-top 4 teams.
The issue I feel like for Subliners is, they're getting the kills and really no one wants to get in the hill.
That is true on some hard points for sure.
Yeah, or sometimes they're not always frying teams, and players don't always maybe take a route here and there, or I don't know. It's hard to gauge sometimes. This team is just too good to be losing to Seattle.
What I was gonna say is, and I heard Parasite and Hecz and Zuma and like other people kind of confirm this. I feel like in some ways they play a little bit too structured. Like they try to play to their system too much. And we always talk about like having a system and, like having a way you want to play is important. Because I think you would agree, like having a way and like a general philosophy on how you want to play is important. Like you can't just be running around like they're chicken with your head cut off, like random. But I will say, like, you have to have some room for creativity and like freestyle, especially when you got a guy like Hydra on your team who, like, if he's on a short list, there are not many players I'd want to just like let loose and let him go kill. There are not too many players I would take over Hydra for that role.
Yep.
Like you got like maybe your Simp, maybe your Abezy, maybe like Pred. Like there's a few players you could argue, and Hydra is right up there amongst the top picks for just like pure slayers. And I heard them saying this, and I kind of thought this, and I was like, it would have worked a little bit better in MW2, which makes perfect sense. In MW2, that style of having your exact structure and playstyle makes a little more sense because the game's a little slower, a little less skill gap with the time to kill. Like, you're able to just, like, zap players, not as much bailout for other people. Like, you play really structured. The bailout plays don't matter as much because the time to kill is so fast that, like, people can get their kills no matter what, unlike this game. And they're just playing overall really structured. There's not like the slide cancel, insane movement, high TTK to make bailout plays. So their system works extremely well. Now in this game, their system still works very well because they're very good players and they're converting kills, especially against the low 2 teams. But we haven't really seen them be able to, separate themselves in the top 4, and they've been towards the bottom of that top 4 for most of the year. And I really think the reason for that could be because they're potentially playing too structured, like trying to play to their exact needs and play style, as opposed to just, sometimes somebody's just got to go make a play. I don't know. I
Yeah.
could be wrong on it, but it just feels like that sometimes. Like they're trying to play so perfect, and they have so much talent. Like they just need to freestyle it sometimes.
Yeah. Maybe like you said, do structure and let them loose a little bit more because it's really a whole new game, different game
Yeah,
than last
I mean
year.
compared to last year, yeah, you in this game you have so much more bailout plays with the high TTK. You can kind of dash out, get out of there. Slide cancel, challenge corner, like a lot more movement in this game where you can like make a crazy play and bail out your team, which is what a guy like Hydra is perfect for. I mean, he was a bailout last year. He made insane plays last year in a game that it was maybe a little bit harder to make insane plays because it was harder to get out with your life. Uh, but that's why Hydra was the MVP last year. I mean, he was that
Yep.
guy.
Yep. Yeah, and
I
they
don't know, he
definitely,
just struggles.
structure. I feel like it worked last year because maybe Priest is not the best player, and it was really good for what they needed last year. The structure, but when you pick up Sib, you kind of don't want him to do the same thing that Priest does because he's a whole different player.
Yeah,
Let
completely
everyone
different player than
loose.
Priest.
Yeah.
Sib, not much of a gap filler, more trying to get out there and be more of a slayer,
Mhm.
But I don't know. I still feel very confident in this team. I still feel very confident they're our fourth best team and could easily climb the ladder again. I just don't know exactly the formula for them to jump over like Toronto or especially OpTic and Faze. Like I don't see a path for them right now, but once again, these are the world champs for a reason. Like they can figure it out.
Mhm. Yep. Can't pass them right now, but maybe they win Major 3. Gonna pass one of them.
I wouldn't be shocked. Like some weird things like that always happen where they look horrible, then all of a sudden they'll just win Major 3.
Yep.
Uh, Brock, this next match is the first match of Sunday, and it pisses me off. And I have like a proposal for us. I don't even like want to talk about LAG until they put in Flames. Like this
Greed.
team is horrible. They somehow finished top 6. They are just horrible. Like Assault continues to drop lowest damage in the lobby, worst KD, lowest kills, like lowest everything possible that matters. Diamond Con is playing okay. Fame once again playing okay. Estriel, like all three of the other players, like they're not gonna make a roster change. Diamond Con, Estriel, and Fame are just like not the worst. They're not great, but they're not the worst. Assault just continues to be horrible, and we've heard Flames can play an AR. And I don't even care if he can. Just throw Fame on an AR, put Flames on a sub. Like, it doesn't matter. Just like, apparently, like, Hecz been saying, like, they're not going to make an outside roster change from the sources he has. And he basically is friends with the players in the team. So I believe him. But you have a guy you signed to a substitute contract. Like, you're paying him anyways. Put him in. Like, what more do you have to lose? Your team is horrible.
Mhm.
Put him in. Like, it can't hurt.
There's literally nothing to lose.
Yeah. Like, what do you have to lose? Like, oh, darn, you go from 12th to 12th? Like, worst team to worst team? I don't know. What do you have to lose?
Yep. Agreed. I'm down to talk about them until they make a move with
Like,
Flames.
I'm done with them. On the other side, though, we already talked about him, so don't really need to touch on it too much more. But TJ was leading the way. He was the best player on Ravens in this series, was really dominating. And I like to see Ravens search and destroy seemingly turning around. Obviously, they did lose the one search to New York, but they're able to close out a map 5 in dominating fashion. And then say what we will about LAG, they've been horrible. But the one thing they have going for them is LAG has been decent or better at search for the last like couple months.
Mhm.
So to see Carolina take them on a search is nice to see. It was a TJ masterclass. And that's what we expect out of TJ in search and destroy. So good series from Carolina. Even though it's against LAG, you like to see them handle business 3-0 and not let this get close if they do want to become a pretty good team.
Yep. I agree with that.
Then Brock, the battle of Beans versus Gunless, the rivalry that was started on Twitter. Minnesota takes it 3-2. They're able to fend off the reverse sweep from Boston. Overall, thoughts on the series? Pentagram has been struggling, but he seems to be left out to dry a little bit on some of the maps. And then for the side of Boston, Beans is a shooter. He's been shooting. Priest had a nice series, damage and numbers wise. But for the side of Minnesota, Lynn's a little bit of a takeover. And just a nice round 11 win. Game 5, Standy had a 1v3 in one of the searches that was just stupid. Like, Boston, what are you doing on that 6-star? But overall, just nice to see Minnesota get a win on the board. And Boston, it's continues to be the same thing for them. Like, they just have search and destroy struggles. They had search and destroy struggles with Slasher. They were like the worst. They continue to be the worst in it. They're 0-4 with Beans and Pentagram in the roster, and they've been like 500 in hardpoint and they're like 2-2 in hardpoint, 2-0 in control, but 0-4 in search. Like, the team is very good in respawn. They just cannot win a search to save their life.
That maybe comes with more of the comms and the searches too,
Yeah.
and
So
strategies and plays for
I
whoever's
guess
calling the
like
shots.
if you want to be a glass half full and be positive on it, at least Boston has been very like average to good. Like they've been very good in control. They have 2 3-0s on Karachi, and then they've been 2-2 in hardpoint. And then obviously search and destroy 0-4. So if you want to talk about some positives, at least they've been like 500 in hardpoint and undefeated in control through 2 matches. Like they've been okay in those game modes. It's just obviously you're gonna have to win searches. You can't be a team that wins no searches because uh, at that point you're just going to be absolutely dominant in respawn. And I don't think there'll ever be a point where this Boston team is just winning every respawn.
Yeah, it's just very hard to do when you're not a top 4 team.
Yeah, absolutely. One
But
thing
like
I do like to see. What were you gonna say?
I said, but on the bright side, they do have a shooter in Beans.
Yeah, he's a shooter. I will say one thing I like to see on the side of Boston, though, engagements wise, their engagements are all around the same. You know, you got 86 75, 85 69, 85 70, 85 86. Like overall, their engagements are pretty close to the same, which we always like to see when your engagements are close to the same. Not always, but in general, it does mean that maybe your pacing is pretty good and you're kind of playing together for the most part, whether it's fast, slow, or in between.
Yeah.
And then the last match, Brock, Faze versus Toronto. We got to talk about this, but for some reason in our pickums, you just all these 50-50 top 4 matchups phases, and you just keep picking against them.
What am I doing?
I don't know what you're doing. You're picking LAG and you're picking against Faze. I mean, this was and I mean, I don't even know how to say this. Like we talked about this, like, oh man, we finally get a good series. Like when we were talking about our pickums, like, oh, finally a good series for the weekend. The last one on Sunday, Toronto versus Faze, potentially our top 2 teams, and this wasn't even close. I mean, Faze looked like a pro team, and Ultra looked like an AM team. Like this was complete domination. I believe Cellium set the KD record for a series this year with a 1.83. Just absurd. Abezy 11-1 in the map too. Just overall complete and utter domination. Simp with a 41-24 on the invasion control. I mean, Toronto basically didn't even spawn in on this one, and Envoy 0.55, just another absolute thinker. He had a 0.54 in the hard point map one. Just Envoy is really on the struggle. I mean, I don't really have too much to say about FaZe. They're dominating. They're our best team in the game right now. We all know that. But for the side of Toronto, it's like the clear cut issue with them right now. I mean, this whole series they pretty much all got fried apart from Scrappy. But the clear cut issue with the Toronto Ultra right now is what is going on with Dylan Envoy. Excellent player, but he is struggling right now.
Mm-hmm. He is struggling, but I believe in Envoy to pick it up by the time Champs comes around.
Yeah, but it's getting a little scary. Like you don't want to be relying on him to pick it up by the time Champs comes around. Like I don't want to have to rely on him picking it up. Like I wanted to pick it up before that so we can get some good practice and start to beat some of these teams and build up some confidence and fear in the enemy. Like, I mean, he's got to pick it up at some point because he's really been struggling now since the major. It's been a struggle.
Yeah, not really too. Maybe something's outside the game's going on with him. We don't really know.
It could be, but he's really struggling right now, which is just so odd. That's why it's like we're harping on him so much because it's so odd to see. He's such a good player. We just don't expect that out of him,
Yeah. I have a stat from CDL Scump. Envoy's last 9 hard points are his best hard point. The last 9 is a 0.75.
It's in the last 9.
Yeah, 9 hard points. His best KD wise is 0.75.
Just insane. Like,
yeah,
that's just not what we expected of a guy like Envoy. He's so good.
Gonna need him to step up if Toronto wants to, get back to number 1 team.
Absolutely,
because this Faze team is just so far ahead away of Toronto at this point now.
Yeah, 100%. Speaking of Faze Toronto predictions, let's jump into predictions, Brock. We were just talking about how you keep picking against Faze for some reason. You keep picking LAG for some reason. I think those 2 things are about to change. I think you didn't give up on them last year because it kind of became a meme for us, but I think you should give up on LAG, just, friend to friend advice. And I think you should probably start picking Atlanta. Now, what's funny is Atlanta plays NYSL this week. We're talking about how bad NYSL looked. You'll pick Atlanta, and then somehow NYSL will be the team to upset them, and I'm just going to laugh.
I know. I'm trapped.
Last week, I got 13 on the predictions. I had I would say a pretty good week. I got 2 wrong, but the 2 I got wrong, to be honest with you, I feel like I had a good week because the 2 I got wrong were NYSL.
And
I feel like everybody predicted those. So like the more toss-up matches like LAT Miami and like Carolina, LAG, and like Boston, Minnesota. I got all those more toss up matches right. And the two I got wrong were picking NYSL over Seattle and NYSL over Carolina, which I feel like 95% of people did. So with that 13-pointer, you had a 2-pointer. What was really rough for you is your 4-pointer was NYSL over Carolina, and you got that one wrong. Both NYSLs, and you got Toronto wrong, and you picked LAG. So you ended up with only a 2-point week. So you're at 15 for the major. I'm at 22. Gives you the veto advantage today. Brock, let's jump into it. Let's get the people out of here. Let them get on with their day, and let's make our predictions. First match, we got a stupid two-match day on Friday. Although I will say I'm very intrigued for the first match. I think you probably feel the same way.
Should be a good one now.
LAT versus Carolina, with the way Carolina's been playing since they've been playing together out of that apartment, and LAT been playing well. This is a very intriguing match to me because these are, you got teams like Vegas, Minnesota, LAT, Carolina. To me, those are like our next 4 teams because like LAG, Boston, Miami's kind of getting their name in there too. Mm-hmm. But LAG, Boston, Miami, and I'm blanking the other team. Oh my God, I can't think.
Boston, Miami.
Let me pull it up here. Oh my God, I'm blanking.
Seattle?
Yeah, Seattle. There you go. Thank you. Those teams are kind of like, more in the bottom 4, although Miami probably more approaching that 9 spot. Seattle maybe even. But like, I feel like Carolina's trying to creep into that 5th/6th spot with the way they've been playing recently. Obviously, we need to see a lot more consistency out of them. But I'm intrigued to see this match. It's a good measuring stick for Carolina. They were able to beat NYSL. Now let's see if they can keep it up and are able to beat another team kind of in their 5 through 7 range in LAT. I'm curious to see where you go with this one, Brock, because this is a tough one, I would say, to predict with the way Carolina's been playing.
It screams to me game 5. What way do I want to go with the last question? I'm going to go with the Royal Ravens. Carolina Royal Ravens 3-2. And I'll put 2 points on it.
I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to go LAT in a 3-2, and I'm putting 2 points on it, although I think it's an extreme toss-up, and everybody knows how much I love Tej, I love Clay, I love Gwyn, I love the Carolina team. It's been like one of my teams to root for all year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just have a feeling that like people are going to get a little bit too high on their last 2 matches, which, by the way, once again, excellent way to get wins. Obviously, dominate LAG, which is good, but then to be able to get a win over NYSL is big time, especially holding off a reverse sweep and not allowing that to happen. I just think LAT looks really good right now as well. I think they're going to take them out 3-2, but I don't feel great about it. And it's like even weird in my head right now because I really thought like when I first saw this match earlier today and was thinking about my predictions, I was initially leaning towards Carolina, but I don't know. Something's telling me to pick LAT in this kind of toss-up match, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Should be a good one, though.
Yeah. The second match of the day should be a straight-up pick. And we said we don't want to talk about them. And for that reason, I'm saying Minnesota 3-0 over LAG, putting 2 points on it. This LAG team is horrible. I will not pick them until I see them win a match.
I will also do a 3-0 Minnesota. 2 points as well.
I do feel like this could have 3-1 written all over because I do think LAG could win the search, though. I'm not going to lie.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Brock. Boston versus LAG. LAG gets the double up the last match Friday into the early match Saturday.
Jeez.
I think this one could get really scary for Boston, even though we said how bad LAG is, because LAG, the one thing, like we said, they have going for them, they've been pretty decent at search, even beating a lot of the top teams in search, leading back to the major, and Boston has been horrible at search. So, like, if this goes map 5, you almost have to favor LAG. I'm going to pick Boston 3-1, and I'm putting 2 points on it. I think Boston wins all 3 of the respawns and continues their search losing streak. I think I'm going to put 2 points on it, Boston 3-1. I think Boston's going to lose the map 2 and fall to 0-5 in search of this team, but I think they're going to be able to close out both hard points and control. But like I said, this gets very scary for Boston. If LAG does steal a respawn and it goes to a map 5, very, very scary because you can have no faith in Boston search right now.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Man. Kind of read my mind on this one. Yeah, I'll go same as you, 3-1. Boston, they kind of have to.
Doesn't this feel like a trap series? Like, we're also at the point where Boston, they have to start winning. Like, they're falling so far behind that like they have to start winning these series and like have to start winning them now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because they are running out of time for that champ spot.
Yeah, they just keep falling further behind these other teams that are winning, and they're going to put themselves in a situation where they need to get like top fours and good online points in order to advance. And I just don't know if this team's going to be able to do that. Are you putting 2 points on that one?
Yes, I put 2 points.
Okay. Let's go Toronto versus Carolina Royal Ravens. Maybe a little bit more interesting match than we thought it would have been. Just a couple of weeks ago, Carolina looking really good. Toronto overall looking okay, but then looked very, very shaky against Faze. And like we mentioned, Dylan Envoy looking very rough lately. Who you got here, Brock? You think Carolina continues this trend of winning, or Toronto going to kind of put them back in their place?
Kind of puts them back into place in a 3-1, and I think Carolina will win the search. I'm gonna put 2 points on it.
I think this one's going to go to a map 5. I've got Toronto. I think Envoy's going to have maybe another struggle series. Maybe not as much. I feel like Envoy. I'm feeling like an Envoy 0.88 in this series.
Pretty good for him. Then.
Yeah, a little more struggle still, but like starting to come back. I think it's going to be a good series from Gwyn again, like usual. I think Carolina. I have a feeling Carolina's going to take like the map 2 search, and then I think they're going to take a map 4 hardpoint to force a game 5, and I think Toronto's going to ice up. I think Toronto wins at 3-2, putting 2 points on it.
I like it.
Final match is, to me, another good one. Kind of get a good measuring stick for where Minnesota is. We saw them lose to 2 top 4 teams, and then we finally saw them get a win against a Boston team when they weren't playing a top 4 team. They get another crack at a non-top 4, and that's with LAT. It's Minnesota. It's LAT. I like LAT to improve to 4-0. You know what? No, I'm switching it. I like Minnesota to improve to 2-2. Picking them in a map 5, and I'm putting 1 point on it. I like the way Gunless has looked, even though he didn't have the best series in their last one. I really like the way Linz has looked all year, obviously. I think they're running into form. Even accuracy was shooting a little bit in their series this past weekend against Boston. I'm going to pick Minnesota 3-2, and they're able to ice up.
I'm going to go opposite of you. LAT 3-2.
Okay, you took what I was going to predict. I like it.
And I'll put 2 points on it.
All right. And that rounds us into Sunday, Brock. We've got Seattle. We've got Las Vegas, which once again, before this would have been like, our 5th or 6th team versus our worst team. Seattle's looked a little better lately. Vegas, questions here with ASIM. I think Vegas is going to kind of bounce back into form, though. I think they're going to take this one 3-1, and I'm putting 2 points on it.
I'm going to go Vegas 3-2. Game 5 to ice up with the new squad member with ASIM. And I'll put 2 points on it.
Back in this one. I think he plays. Obviously, it's hard for him to play much worse than he played, but you think he's going to have a big time series or just kind of an average series?
It's, to me, I think ASIM will have above a 1 KD in this series.
You think, okay, yeah, I feel like that's fair. Looking pretty good on the map or just looking pretty standard? Because I don't know, like an ASIM 1.0 with the way he plays can look extremely good.
We'll do the ASIM 1.0. Gets back to his roots, has some time to practice with the team.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it. All right. We've got OpTic, Texas, squaring it off against Miami, which, ever since Vickle held up that 3-0 against OpTic, things seem to not have gone as well for the side of Miami, is a way to put it nicely. I'm interested to see how this one goes. I do think OpTic's going to come out in 3-0 them, though, even though Miami has looked better lately. I think it's an OpTic 3-0. I'm curious, are you going to put your 4 points on this one?
Yes, I will.
Okay, then I'm going 2 points on it. I'm taking OpTic 3-0. Just, I don't know. OpTic just looks so good that even despite Miami's improvements with Real, OpTic has looked so good against these bottom teams that it's hard not to pick them in 3-0 here, in my opinion.
Yep, I agree. Texas 3-0 until I see otherwise against these bottom teams.
Okay, I like it. And you're putting 4 points on it, you said?
Yes.
All right, then that leaves me with, unless I want to go put 4 points on a previous one, which the way Carolina's playing, I feel like the other candidates would be like Carolina versus Toronto. But with the way Carolina's been playing, I don't feel completely confident. So even though NYSL is a top 4 team, this is just how good Faze is right now. I think Faze is going to beat NYSL 3-1. I think NYSL is going to squeak out a map somewhere. But I'm going 3-1 Atlanta, and I'm putting my 4 points on it. Crazy to think I'm putting my 4 points against a top 4 team.
I like it. I'm going to go Atlanta Hopefully it doesn't backfire. I mean, Atlanta 3-0 against NYSL, and the struggles continue still for NYSL.
Okay, I like it. You're putting 1 point or 2 points?
I'll put 2 points on it. Can't wait for NYSL to now come out and destroy them.
Yeah, we get you to pick Atlanta against the top 4 team, and then Atlanta's going to lose. It's probably you might be a curse for them. Maybe whatever you pick, it's like when I used to pick Boston and Florida. Like whenever I pick them, whatever I pick would happen opposite. Maybe you're like the curse for Faze, and maybe you just keep picking against them against top 4 teams, and whatever you tell them they're going to do, they do the opposite.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully not, but maybe I have that leeway at curse.
Could be. All right. That's all we got for this one, Brock. Unless you have anything else you want to talk about.
No. Excited to see some of these more of these matches this weekend. Certain ones. Yeah, excited to play some probably rank play a little later here.
Yeah, I'm also very excited for the matches. I feel like we've got our top 4, like where we rank them, kind of ironed out. But I feel like the middle of the pack is getting a lot more muddy because like teams like Vegas struggled in their first match with Asim, and teams like Seattle and Miami and Carolina, who are more towards the bottom of the pack, seem to be picking it up. So I'm excited because like the LAT Carolina, the Minnesota LAT, seeing like if Boston could take on LAG, seeing if Carolina could take out Toronto, like Seattle versus Vegas. I feel like there are a lot of middle of the pack matches where we're kind of getting a little bit confused on where we want to rank the teams. I feel like there are a lot of good middle of the pack matches that are going to be good measuring stick matches, and I'm very excited to tune into them.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
All right. That's going to do it for this one. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. If you're on the audio platforms, drop a follow, drop a 5-star review. We appreciate all the support as always, and we will see you guys in the next one.